Bienvenidos.
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 Welcome to the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast.
Here's your host,
Certified language coach,
Tamara Marie.
Hola, bienvenidos al episodio 225. Welcome to episode 225 of the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast. In this episode, I'm doing a part 2 to our last episode that we did about learning Spanish with music. So if you go back to episode 223, I did a breakdown of the lyrics of the song Si Antes Te Hubiera Conocido by Karol G. Now, we went into a lot of phrases in the song that you can use in your daily conversation, but I did mention there were 2 more advanced grammar topics that I wanted to take some more time to review in another episode, so I'm doing that for you right now. Now, even in just the title of this song, you can find that the grammar can be quite complex. So I wanted to give you a little bit more of an explanation of when you can use it and exactly how you can incorporate it into your daily conversations. So I encourage you, either after you listen to this or before, go back and check out episode 223 so that you can actually hear the song and listen to it. And as always, we put the video for the song on our show notes page so that you can take a look at it and also listen and follow along with the lyrics. So it's a great song, very catchy song. But I want to dive into the grammar that's used because even in the title, we can see that we're using some different words to express things that we hope would have happened in the past. So it's a very specific case where we're talking about a hypothetical situation, but unlike a hypothetical future, which is usually what we're talking about when we're dreaming or thinking about our plans, this is about a hypothetical past. So it's about things that you wish would have happened. So it's, again, very, very specific situation, but you may find it to be useful in conversations, even though I would say of all the things that you have to learn in Spanish and in grammar, this is not going to be one that you come across every single day, but if you're intermediate and you have kind of mastered the basics, then you might want to delve into this one. So again, it's important that anytime you're learning grammar that you do it in context. Having a goal to sort of copy out every single grammar chart for every single verb in every tense and every mood is not a great goal for being able to speak Spanish fluently. And I remember when I first started learning, I was obsessed with like finding verb charts that had everything. I wanted vosotros, vos, tú, ustedes, subjunctive, command tense, negative command. Like I wanted the entire grammar chart for every single verb. And what I found in doing that was it wasn't very helpful because out of context, I really had no idea how to use those words. And very seldom do you have someone in a conversation that says, tell me how to say comer in every single tense. That's not a thing. So it's important to learn the context anytime you're learning grammar. So in this case, we're tackling this because 1, it was used in a song, and 2, you can actually use it in conversations when you're talking about sort of this hypothetical past. So a lot of times this is used to express regret or just talking about things that you wish would have happened. So in the title of this song, specifically, si antes, so if before, te hubiera conocido. So I had met you. So this is kind of saying, what would have happened? Like this whole song is speculation if I had met you in the past or before you met your current girlfriend. So again, go back to episode 223 for the breakdown of the lyrics. But so we're going to go into this a little bit deeper because you may or may not notice that the word hubiera actually comes from the verb haber, which is very commonly used in the present tense as I, Hay in English. So like hay dos manzanas en la mesa. There's 2 apples on the table. So I in the present tense is the verb haber, which is used to express there is or there are. Okay, but this is a very different use of haber. So there are actually 2 perfect tenses that are used in this song that I wanted to get into more detail. The first one being the past perfect subjunctive, which is a lot, right? The past perfect subjunctive. So, and again, these are the perfect tenses. So usually it's something that has like a compound tense like have had or you have been or I have, she has, we have, that type of thing in English. All right. So in Spanish, it's the past perfect subjunctive or pluscuamperfecto. And we're going to look at it from the perspective of this song because, again, she is using this language to talk about what would have happened if she had this relationship, if what would have happened earlier. And yeah, just kind of speculating about the past, which may not be the healthiest thing to do. But again, our mind does go there sometimes. So it's helpful to know how to express these thoughts and feelings. All right. So one thing to understand about this tense, like I mentioned, it's a compound tense. So you're going to see the verb haber, but in the imperfect subjunctive. So you might be familiar with the subjunctive tense. This is again our imperfect. So if you're familiar with el imperfecto in general, it's our past tense, but this is the imperfect subjunctive. All right. So it's the subjunctive mood in el imperfecto. And we're using the verb haber. And we're going to pair that with the past participle. So if you're familiar with in English, the past participle is things like ended, fought, bought, thought. I don't know why I got all the OUGHT verbs, but something that happened. Usually it ends in ED, right? For more of our like common verbs in English. So talked, walked, things like that. All right. So that's going to be our past participle. So we're going to have our haber with the imperfect subjunctive plus the past participle to give us this past perfect subjunctive. Okay. Hopefully you're not confused yet. If you're listening to the audio version, I encourage you to check out the video version on our YouTube channel because I'm showing all these on the screen so that you can actually see these constructions as I'm talking through them. So definitely check out our YouTube channel if this is something that is better if you see it, if you're a visual learner especially. All right. So I'm going to give you some examples of just this past perfect subjunctive so you can see how it's actually used. All right. So it's not so difficult to get. So just like in the song title, when we have haber in the imperfect subjunctive in the first person, it becomes hubiera, hubiera. So I have an example here. I had studied. Hubiera estudiado. Hubiera estudiado. So implied in this is yo hubiera estudiado, right? But again, usually this is going to be in context, so we don't necessarily need to use the subject pronoun here, but we could say yo hubiera estudiado. Or if I was talking about you and I'm talking directly to you, so this is the informal, so the tú form, I could say hubieras llamado. Hubieras llamado. So you had called. So again, this hubieras is our imperfect subjunctive. And that's still the verb haber, but in the tú form. And llamado is the verb llamar in the past participle. So hubieras llamado, you had called. Now you might kind of go, this sounds incomplete. I wouldn't just say I had studied or you had called. It sounds incomplete, and it is. So we want to look at this in the context of using it with another verb form that's also used in the song, and that is the conditional perfect. So again, think about when you're talking about things that are hypothetical. It's something that would have or could have or should have happened, right? So if I'm talking about something that's hypothetical, in Spanish, that is what's called the conditional tense. So in this case, we're using the conditional perfect because we're talking about something that would have happened in the past, not something that would happen in the future or could happen in the future. I know, I told you it's going to be about grammar. Hopefully you're not lost yet. Again, check out the video if following along with this in the audio is difficult. So for the conditional perfect, we are also going to use the verb haber in the conditional tense. And we're going to pair that with the past participle. So we have haber in the conditional plus the past participle to give us our conditional perfect. So let's look at some examples that always makes it clear. So I have habría llegado. Habría llegado. I would have arrived. And again, I could say yo habría llegado, but if I'm talking, you should get the context that I'm speaking about myself. So I would have arrived. Yo habría llegado. So that habría is the conditional of the verb haber. All right. Now let's say I'm talking about more than one person. We have a group. It becomes habríamos. Habríamos. So for example, I could say habríamos empezado. Habríamos empezado, which is we would have started. Okay, so again, because we're using this past participle, we're talking about something that would have happened in the past, not something that might happen in the future. Okay, habríamos empezado, we would have started. Again, sounds incomplete, doesn't it? It's like, oh, I would have arrived, I would have started. Well, if what? If what? Like, explain yourself, right? So that is when we get this full sort of phrase. This is when it actually becomes useful. So just like in the song where she's saying, si antes te hubiera conocido, when you're using this past perfect subjunctive, you're usually going to mix it with the conditional perfect, and you're going to use the word if, or in Spanish, si. So the full phrase will have si plus the past perfect subjunctive, followed by the conditional perfect, right? All right, hopefully I haven't lost you yet. So let's just look at the example. That makes it a lot clearer. So I could say, si yo hubiera estudiado más, habría pasado el examen. Si hubiera estudiado más, habría pasado el examen. So if I would have studied more, I would have passed the test. So you see how this kind of makes sense? Like if I would have done this, then this would have happened. So I'm reflecting on two things. It's sort of like almost like a cause and effect in the past. If this would have happened, then that would have happened after. Okay? Or if I had done this, or if you had done this, then that would have happened. So again, it can sound accusatory, right? But you are reflecting on the past. Like I said, that's why it lends itself to talking about regrets and mistakes, because that's generally when we're reflecting on the past. We're usually not saying, oh, yes, everything was great. So another example, si hubieran venido temprano, habríamos empezado antes. Si ellos hubieran venido temprano, habríamos empezado antes. So if they would have come early, we would have started before. Right? So, or we would have already started. So again, if they had come hubieran, so you notice that hubiera becomes hubieran because we're talking about ellos. So that is our conjugation for an imperfect subjunctive with haber. And then we have venido, which is from the verb venir, to come. And habríamos empezado, we're using our conditional perfect, we would have started before. Another example, si te hubiera visto ayer, te habría saludado. Si te hubiera visto ayer, te habría saludado. Okay, so this one is similar to the song because it says, si antes te hubiera conocido. So that te hubiera means I'm talking about you, if I had met you. So in this case, it's saying, si te hubiera visto ayer. So if I had seen you yesterday. So remember, visto comes from the verb ver, which is irregular in our past participle. So si te hubiera, so if you, I had visto ayer, seen yesterday. So in English, we'd say if I'd seen you yesterday. Te habría saludado. I would have said hello, right? I would have greeted you. So this is probably, again, someone saying, hey, I was here yesterday. You didn't even say hi to me. It's like, look, if I would have seen you, I would have said hi, okay? Si te hubiera visto ayer, te habría saludado. All right, so that's actually a pretty common occurrence, right? Someone could say, hey, what happened yesterday? You didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or I didn't see you. And then you can give an explanation. Hey, look, if I had seen you, I would have done this differently. All right. So that actually is something that you can probably find some uses in daily conversation. And I encourage you to think about some things that might fit this example that you can use in your conversations. Now, we can also change the word order a little bit. So in Spanish, it's important to notice that the word order can be different than in English, and sometimes it can also be more flexible. So in this case, we can also use the conditional perfect and then si, if, and then the past perfect subjunctive. So let's look at an example. And this is also similar to some examples in the song lyrics that we reviewed a few episodes ago. I could say, habría ido a la fiesta si no hubiera estado cansado. Habría ido a la fiesta si no hubiera estado cansado. En mi caso, cansada, porque soy una mujer. So I'm saying here, I would have gone to the party. Yo habría ido a la fiesta si no hubiera estado cansado. So if I hadn't have been tired. So if I wasn't tired, I would have been at the party. Another example using nosotros. Habríamos viajado más si hubiéramos tenido más dinero. Habríamos viajado más si hubiéramos tenido más dinero. And I'm sure we can all relate to that, right? So we would have traveled more if we would have had more money. Okay, habríamos viajado, we would have traveled. Si hubiéramos tenido, if we would have had más dinero, more money. Okay, another example. Habrías entendido la película si la hubieras visto desde el principio. Habrías entendido la película si la hubieras visto desde el principio. So this habrías entendido, if you notice this habrías, it's the tú form, right? So tú habrías entendido, you would have understood, okay? La película, so you would have understood the movie. You would know what's happening right now. Si la hubieras visto desde el principio. So if you would have seen it from the beginning. So if you would have got here on time, you would know what's going on right now. So again, this is something that you could use to explain like, look, if this was different in the past, then this would have been different. So it is very useful. And I encourage you to think of some examples that you can use in your day-to-day conversation. So one thing that you can take away from this episode, now you know I always like to give you an action. I don't want you to just listen to this and walk away and go, that was interesting. I want you to actually apply it to your day-to-day conversation. So think of some examples that you can use with si hubiera, habría. Si hubiera, habría. So in this case, I'm using our past perfect subjunctive, si hubiera. So if I had, right, if I had done something, habría, then I would have something else. So that's using our past perfect subjunctive, then our conditional perfect, like we talked about before. So think about things that happen in the past. You say, look, if I had done this, I would have this, or I would have done this. All right. So for example, si hubiera sabido que ibas a venir, habría preparado algo especial. Si hubiera sabido que ibas a venir, habría preparado algo especial. So if I had known, so the sabido is the verb saber, which is the one of the few cases where saber is actually just treated as a regular verb in the past participle. Si hubiera sabido que ibas a venir, so that you were going to come, habría preparado algo especial. I would have prepared something special. Another thing that you can try to use when you're coming up with your own examples is si estuviera, sería. Si estuviera, sería. So this is like, if I were, then it would be, right? So if I were like this, then it would be that, or this would happen. So for example, I could say, si estuviera allí, todo sería más fácil. So if I was there, everything would be easier, which, if you're talking remotely or trying to explain something to someone, that could be useful. If you're talking to someone, you could say also, si estuvieras aquí, if you were here, todo sería más fácil. Everything would be easier. Si estuvieras aquí, todo sería más fácil. So again, these are some things that you can begin to write down. So try to come up again with your own examples and feel free to share them with us. You can message us on Instagram at Learn Spanish con Salsa. You can email us directly at host@learnspanishconsalsa.com. And let me know what examples that you come up with. And if you're in our Facebook group, you can also share within there. And our team will stop in and maybe we'll give you some feedback on some of the ways that you're using the words, making sure that you're doing it properly. But I find that it's helpful to think through some examples of how you might use this in real life. And going back to our example from the song, until hopefully now that you've gone through this extensive explanation of our past perfect subjunctive and our conditional perfect, if we go back to our original song by Karol G, we go back to the first line, right? She says, "Que hubiera sido." This is like a question. "Que hubiera sido si antes te hubiera conocido?" So that's the entire line. So, ¿qué hubiera sido? So, what would have been? Si antes te hubiera conocido, if I had met you before. And she answers the question. She says, seguramente, surely, estarías bailando esta conmigo. You would be dancing this with me. So I hope you can see here the conditional perfect again. Estarías bailando. So we can also use the verb estar, like we had our si estuviera example. We also have our estarías bailando, right? So you would be dancing conmigo. You'd be dancing with me. So there's also a way, if you want to use the verb estar, you might find that also useful as a way to kind of use this construction to express something similar. But I hope that you have found this helpful. As always, I hope something that you heard in this episode has taken you one step closer from Spanish beginner to bilingual. And if you enjoy learning Spanish with music, I encourage you to sign up for our Learn Spanish with Music course. We go through from beginner level through intermediate level. several words and phrases using songs, just like we did in our previous episodes, about how can you actually take out what is in these songs, not just to sing along, although that's a lot of fun, but to also be able to use them in your actual conversations in Spanish each and every day. So if you're interested in that, you can check out our Learn Spanish with Music course. You can go to our website, learnspanishconsalsa.com/225 for episode 225 in the podcast. And we'll include in there, just for our podcast listeners, a special link for you to get a discount on our course. So learnspanishconsalsa.com/225. So you can get a discount on our Learn Spanish with Music course. It is self-paced, it's completely online. So you don't have to worry about having enough time to do it. You'll have lifetime access, but it's a great way to keep moving forward, learning new songs, adding some stuff to your playlist, but also learning how you can use what you're listening to in music in your daily conversation. So once again, hope that something you heard today will take you one step closer from beginner to bilingual. Next episode, we're going to be breaking down a song by Bad Bunny. So I hope you check that out. So make sure you're subscribed so you'll be the first to know when we drop that episode. Hasta la próxima.
Thank you for listening to the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast at learnspanishconsalsa.com.